Now we're live on Facebook. Got to wait for 10 seconds. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Coaching and Flourish podcast. I am your host, John Andrew Williams. Today, I have Danny McGuire. Welcome, Danny. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, John. How are you?
Good. Good. How are you?
Great. Thanks.
Good. Thank you for being here. Let me introduce you for a second. So Danny is a former law enforcement officer. He's based out of Chicago. He is a graduate of our coach training program. And I'll have him tell you what he's up to now, which is your department chair at a university or a college?
Yes. It's a small liberal arts college in Whiting, Indiana called Calumet College of St. Joseph. I am the department chair of the public safety programs, which are programs where police officers come back to school to earn their bachelor's or master's degrees based on their experience, and it's an accelerated format. So I'm home where I came from in law enforcement and helping those individuals get their academic needs accomplished.
That's fantastic. And Danny, just so you know, you're one of the few participants I've heard of, like legendary through the process of being a super huge sweetheart throughout the whole coach training. From Ashley, from who do you have your trainers? Is it Brittany? Who are your trainers?
Brittany.
Yeah. She often would tell me stories of you. So you have mythic status among participants in the coach training. You should know that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And also, I just want to get to your story. So we'll go for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
And thank you for the community who's tuning in now. For those listening on to the podcast, thank you. This is part of us, Coach Training EDU, just coming together as a community to hear the stories of the people who are taking the training, who have graduated from the training, what they're doing now, and just to share and build community. So here we are. If you want more information after this is over, the blog, all the information on the podcast is there on the Coach Training EDU blog. That's really the place to go. Let's jump in. So Danny, how's it going? Like, how is life right now, currently?
Life is strange right now in the current situation we're in. I was sharing this experience with Ashley earlier. The only thing I can compare this to is 9/11. Where, something in our lives completely changed the way we do our normal for some time. So life is strange, but it's great. Life is great.
Right. That was interesting. I was actually in Italy when 9/11 happened. And I was studying abroad, and so when we got back, it was as if everyone else had this experience and then we got inserted into it. It was fantastic, like crazy. Talk about perspective shifts. What do you feel like the big perspective shift is happening right now for you?
It makes you think of the things that are important, your priorities. What is the most important thing? This kind of takes you back when you're not able to go into your office, when you're not able to do certain things. It makes you think about the little things you take for granted in life and what is important.
Right. That's so true. All right. So what brought you from law enforcement to coach training in the first place?
Well, it's kind of a unique story. I started in law enforcement at 21 years old, which was the minimum age. It was in 1992. And I worked in law enforcement for about 20 years, and I ended up sustaining an injury that forced me to leave law enforcement, retire. And I got an education. And one of the things that I noticed about myself, it's always been this way, that people would always come to me. I went and got a master's in counseling psychology before I got my doctorate. And I always had this knack to listen to people. And I found myself in a position where I was helping people more, and I came across the website and I started looking up wellness coaching and topics like that. And the company came up and I registered, and it just seemed like the right fit for me. It seemed exactly like what I should be doing, and I needed to learn more about it. So I jumped in the class, and the rest is history.
Right. So what's the difference between life coach and law enforcement officer? Like, what's the difference between those, and then where do they overlap?
Well, there's a big difference, right? So
sure.
there's being a law enforcement officer is unique, right? You're enforcing laws. When you work in a municipality like Chicago, you're very busy all of the time. It's constant calls. Being a life coach, a wellness coach, you're focusing on helping people achieve their goals and getting them on the right path. Similar to law enforcement, but again, in a place like Chicago, it's a little different. You're answering calls and you're seeing people at their worst. So it's largely a negative thing, where being a coach is a positive thing, right? If that makes sense.
For sure. And we had a couple conversations about this. One thing I remember that really struck out was you're saying something about how like it's your job not to, I mean, you have to enforce laws, but it's not as if look at police officers as like the people that are responsible for cleaning everything else up. That it's just part of a services, like where we're at. How are we doing as a society? Like, knowing what you know about law enforcement, knowing what you know about life coaching, which I think is the future of support. How are we doing? Are we okay? Or what are we looking at here?
Law enforcement is my family business. My dad was a police officer before me, and generations change, people change, but it all remains the same, right? As a society, in my opinion, I think we're all right. I think that there's people are going to make their own decisions, whether they're good or bad. They have the free will to do so. And law enforcement is, you wear many different hats, and that tends to be some of the conversations I have with people now, younger generation people who are in school, saying, hey, I think I want to be a police officer. And it's difficult to explain to them what the job is, other than telling them that you have so many different hats. One day you're a social worker, but it goes by minutes sometimes. One call, you're a therapist. One call, you're a social worker. One call, you're a domestic violence advocate. You're doing several different things. And then 5 minutes later, you could get a call where you have to give somebody emergency medical assistance that's shot. So you're wearing several different hats. And as a society, I think that I think we're doing all right. I just think that there's a lot more knowing now. There's social media. So things that might have happened in the past that take a while for it to come to public light is immediate. And also the issue with that is that people can edit those things. So you don't fully see the stories. When people experience negative things and you see that over and over and over again, it kind of wears away at you. And in a place like this, Chicago, large, over 2 million people, you have 12,000 police officers here, and you see some really bad stuff on a daily basis. It starts to wear at you. So a lot of my students that come back to school are all looking to get their degree, to get promoted within the department, or do something else after they leave the job, or even leave the job early because they've kind of had enough of seeing this negativity. So I kind of sit there with them and get them focused on what their plan is and how to achieve those goals, and take it step by step with them.
Wow, that's amazing. How does the coaching play into that, what you're doing now?
100%. One of the things that I learned, and it was very important, was how to listen, the levels of listening. And I always tend to be a talker, and I would listen and I'd want to fire right back again and help people move into those directions by talking to them and giving them advice. In coaching, I learned to listen more and really hear what they're saying, not just formulate it immediately. And coaching has played a huge role in all of that. And the training that I received is incredible. It's really helped me push these people in the right direction that they want to go in.
Right. What was the most surprising exercise that you learned in your 1.0?
Oh God. The thing I use the most, how about that, is the
Yeah, let's go there. Yeah.
the wheel of life.
Okay.
I use that the most. I
Mhm.
use that on a regular basis. Because people will come into me and their priorities, they, they're kind of mishmashed. And then when I put that in front of them and say, go through the whole exercise with them, there's like a light bulb that clicks, at least with my population that I deal with, right? The law enforcement people, it clicks immediately. That, and then the core motivations.
Right. Yeah, those are some of my favorite tools. And what's your favorite follow-up? How do you prefer to follow up after the wheel? Like, what's your favorite follow-up, or in your mind, yeah, this is really working. How do you know?
Well, when I follow up with the people, when they come back to me, a student of some sort, or, even I'll even do it in a class. Like, I teach a wellness class. It's part of the curriculum in my undergraduate program. And I'll have them do that. And I'll have them come to me and tell me how it's working for them. I put it right back in their kitchen, and I just listen to what they're saying. And usually people figure it out pretty quickly. So my follow-up is usually just letting them tell me how it's working for them.
That's amazing. I love it's the thing about coaching and coach training. It's as much a training of what not to do as it is a training of what to do.
Right.
And it's amazing how much mental, emotional energy people put into trying to figure it out for someone else.
Right.
When that just gets in the way.
Right.
Like, completely.
Right.
It's like,
People have their own answers, John. They have their own answers. I think we as coaches just kind of, water those seeds and get them to say, aha,
Mm-hmm.
that's exactly what I need to do. Okay. Right.
It's almost like we're space creators. Like,
Right.
the way I look at it is like, we create space and keep the space safe, and then they try out ideas in this little temporary space bubble, and then they get their new Tinker toy that they can play with, their new idea, and then they go out into the world and try it out and then come back. And it's like, it's growth mindset, and living growth mindset is what we're doing. All right. So, and I just have one. It's so tangential, curious question. I just have to ask it. Is it really fun to drive really fast with the siren and to go through like lights and just to go through stuff? Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it is. It's fun. It's an adrenaline rush. It's when you get that hot call, and you're flying to the call. I worked on the HBT team, which is now called the SWAT team. And we were a response car. So you'd get that call of, like a SWAT job, somebody holding somebody hostage or whatever, and you're flying there with the lights and siren. I mean, it's an adrenaline rush. It's it gets you pretty pumped up. So
I'd imagine you feel like a hero. You hop out of there like, I am the hero. I'm a real life hero. Like, it's got to be like, I mean, I would be there.
it's and I don't think I ever looked at myself as like a hero. I just kind of looked at myself as I'm here to help somebody.
Right.
Which, kind of what led me into the coaching more than anything was the ability to help somebody help themselves.
It's one of the reasons why I love the coaching profession and field, is the people who are attracted to it all have hearts to help other people. You're like, oh, like, what do you do? Oh, I am an expert in helping other people succeed. Like, those are my people. You know what I mean? Like, we are the helpers of other, like the deep helper of other. I love that idea of, you pick your profession, and then around there's a culture that develops around the profession. All right. Thank you for answering that question, by the way. I know it wasn't one, but I've often thought about it. Like, if I I imagine you're probably focused on what you have to do. It's not like, yeah, I'm going through but I always thought it'd be kind of fun. All right. So in looking in your past, like, how did you grow up? And what were you said your dad was also a police officer. How did that influence, where did you grow up, and what were the top influences?
So I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I've lived here my whole life. My father was a Vietnam veteran in the Army, and uniquely enough, when he came home, my dad's, he calls it vertically challenged, and at the time, Chicago Police Department had a height restriction. You had to be a minimum of 5'7". My dad was underneath that, so he couldn't get on the job, and worked, odd jobs, driving truck that went out of business, and worked very hard. So the common denominator here and the common theme is always working hard and being resilient. So if something happens, you take that lemon and you make lemonade. It's just how I was raised. My mother was an immigrant from Italy. My grandparents never spoke English. They were in their 50s when they moved here. So my mom was a late life baby. She had a brother 18 years older, a sister 16 years older, but they also worked hard when they got here. I grew up, I went to parochial schools, Catholic schools my whole life. That was part of our culture. My grandparents always lived 2 doors down, so they were always in my life. And they were very hard workers, very religious people, who believed in doing good, even if it was a detriment to you, because sometimes doing the right thing hurts, right? No matter what it may be. My father was always my hero. He got into law enforcement in the mid to late 70s as a corrections officer with Cook County, which is the county that encompasses Chicago. And then a Chicago police officer, once they dropped the height restrictions, he took that test and immediately got on Chicago. He was explosives tech. He started off in patrol, worked on the SWAT team, and then became an explosives tech. I just kind of followed in his footsteps. I wasn't really good in school. I have dyslexia, so I didn't, I really didn't do well in school, high school, college. My parents always used to ride me, and then I found out later in life that I had dyslexia, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, sorry about that." All right.
Sorry for all those talks.
But, it didn't stop me. 2 masters, a doctorate, working on my 3rd master's. So it's a little bit more difficult than the average person, I guess. I have to read things over and over again to understand it, but I never let it stop me. Again, work hard. If you're faced with an obstacle, go through it, go over it, go around it, but do not let that obstacle stop you. It just won't happen. My father and I were always close. We played in bagpipe bands together. I play in a bagpipe band. I've played in bagpipe bands for years, over 30 years. So with the bagpipe, because of my hand injury, I really can't do that anymore. So I play a bass drum now. But he was always close to me, and my parents and my family were always very influential in my life. And the theme was always work hard. If you're faced with something that seems insurmountable, it is not. It is not insurmountable. With the right level of support and self-motivation, you can pretty much accomplish just about anything. And I prove that. I'll have students come in to the school, traditional students will ask me to come in my office, and they'll say, I don't think I belong here at this college. And I say, why? A lot of inner city kids from Chicago, from different cultures, I'll say, why do you think you don't belong here? Well, I'm stupid. What do you mean you're stupid? They're like, I wasn't good in high school. I'm not doing well here. And then I'll tell them my story, that I got a 12 on my ACT, and I had like a 2.1 grade point average in high school. And then I just point to the walls with all the diplomas and then all the police awards and everything else. And I'm like, if I can do it, you can do it. And you should come see me next week, and we're going to talk about how you're going to do it. Right. And that is another level of coaching that I do with the students at the school. They call it, we have advisors at the school, but I think it's a beyond advisement. Advisors are like, you need to take class A, class B, class C to get your degree. I'm telling them and sitting there and listening to them and helping them discover that they have their own ability to do this. And if they reach deep down inside, they're going to find what it takes to do it and get it done. And I just try to help them along the way.
Wow. I mean, it's just like you're in the perfect spot to do what you're doing to help so many students who might be struggling.
I recently did a favor for a bandmate, and it was a pretty significant favor, and everyone was talking about it. And I said, I just don't know any other way to be, like, I don't know. I'm programmed to help people. I'm programmed to give of myself, to the point where sometimes it may even put me out. But for me, the satisfaction of helping somebody goes beyond any kind of monetary value or any kind of, I don't know, recognition. I don't care about recognition, and I don't care about that. I care about people achieving their goals and watching them succeed, and knowing that I had some sort of helping hand in that, no matter who they are or where they come from. Doesn't matter to me. I just want people to be happy and succeed.
That's so awesome. That's so, like, I mean, it just makes me so happy. So core motivation type 2, the helper. Is this the,
That's me.
that's it. That's it. How do you make time?
I have a little bit of number 1 in there too. I'm a little hard on myself, but.
All right. All right. So how do you take care of you, or how do you ensure that your batteries are also recharged?
Well, I had issues my whole life with my weight and maintaining a healthy weight. And in the last 3 years, I've really focused on me. I use meditation. I'll meditate behind. This is my basement. So
yeah, I was saying it's amazing to be like interviewed in a gym. Like, are you like?
It's my
that's
temple.
awesome. Yeah.
It's my temple. This is, I work out.
Here's to that.
I exercise. I do a lot of meditation. I exercise regularly. Work out. I've completely transformed my life. I've gone from almost 290 pounds to about 207 pounds. Just by diet, nutrition, changing nutrition, exercise, and focusing on the priorities and what's important.
That's enormous amount of change. It's a lot of weight.
I'm still not
What? Yeah. Yeah. What was that journey like?
That was tough at first. It was really, I think there's a mental process that is more important than the physical process, at least in my experience. So the mental process kind of messes with our heads, right? So you'll get in a funk, something will happen, and that, at least with me, it would kind of mess with my ability to exercise and diet throughout my life. So, an example, if I don't know, a girlfriend breaks up with me, or a significant other breaks up with me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat 6 tubs of ice cream and, wallow in my self-pity. Well, little things start messing with you as you get older. And after 40 years old, the whole system is different. So I really had to focus on the mental process. So when I would get in those deep, dark places in my head, like missing my job as a police officer, I really missed that thing. I was the chief hostage negotiator for the SWAT team. It's right where I wanted to be, and it just, it's crazy. So there's times that I get in this deep, dark place in my head and I have to pull myself out. And I started focusing more on a mental process. Like on the days I get up and I'm like, man, I don't want to do this today. I don't want to jump on this stupid bike or this elliptical. I don't want to push these weights around or anything. And plus I'm limited with my physical ability because of my hand. So I've got to wear braces and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, why do I want to do this to myself today? I just push through it. I just say, you know what? Not today. You're not going to get the better of me today. And I just, I push through it. The mental process was huge, John. It was, there were times where, like the holidays would come around and there'd be the cookies and all that stuff. And I'm like, nope, can't do it. I just, one, I'll have one. Thank you. And having an Italian mother.
Right.
What's wrong with
a bunch of those things, man.
What's wrong with you? Go ride the bike for an hour. Who cares? Come on. All right, Mom. Thanks.
Those cookies aren't going to eat themselves. So.
Right. So, yeah.
Woo! Did you ever dip below 2? Did you ever dip below 200?
I haven't been below 200 in 28 years.
Yeah.
When I started the police academy, I was 192 pounds when I started the police academy in 1992, and I haven't been. As a matter of fact, my mom found a bag with some of my old like academy uniforms, and someone around here said, "Hey, try on your pants." And I was heavier at the time, and I got them past my knees, and I'm like, nope, it's not going to happen. So it was another motivating factor there. Like, man, how did this happen so fast?
Right. I wrestled in college, so like weight was always a thing, right? You always knew where you were within a couple pounds, and but I think the deeper level you're speaking to is that mental, like, I don't know, battle. There's like a mental tug of war, but I think it's one of the realms where I feel like so much self-learning can come out of it. There's so much, like when you're there with yourself, like this work that only you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain power in it too. I found that too. Like there's a certain power in being able to stick to a certain like set of food choices. All right. What would you say to a coach who's just starting out on their journey? A coach who's just starting their coach training. What would be your advice to them?
Trust the process. Trust the training. Listen to the people that are training you. And I also have to say this about the process. My group that I went through this with was very tight. I was the only male in the class, and probably the only one close to my age. And we were all very, very close. And I still to this day miss my day of class with those people. Learn from the people in your class too, because they will help you through this process, whether it's obviously helping you or it's unwitting, right? They might not even have an idea that they're helping you. But trust the process, listen to the training, trust the training. And if you have questions, ask the people that are providing the training, and then try to stay tight with your group. That's really it.
Yeah, that was one of the things that surprised me the most when I started training, was how tight groups got by even like some groups really quick, but like every group by at least the halfway point. And I think it's one of it would happen by accident because the course design, most coach training, you take one, weekend here, weekend here, weekend here. You might have a different group of people each weekend. Mm. This is not. So you mean the same group of people over a span of 6 months, once a week. I mean, that's a chunk of life to journey together like that. What was the moment when you first, and it's usually as a client, like when was the first moment as a client where you knew that coach, like there was something to coaching beyond what you initially thought?
The moment that I realized it, and again, I went to school to be a therapist, right? So, and there is a huge difference. So, right. It's similar, but different. And that's a whole other topic, right? The minute the light bulb went off was in the training itself. And I was a client in the training, and we were talking about this little drama I was dealing with one of my kids in an extracurricular activity. And the person that was my coach just made a simple statement, like, what would happen, or what would it look like if you just didn't respond to that? And I was like, wait a minute. Wait. I mean, I have all this advanced training and all this education and stuff. And it was that simple moment that I said, yeah, you know what? You're right. I don't have to respond to that. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's going to feel great not to do that. And I realized that this is exactly what I needed to be doing and what was the right thing to do.
Wow. It's amazing when it's something just that simple
That
pops in.
boom.
Yeah. That's why I love coaching. It's not this clever, let's figure this out. You have to be super like, smart or sophisticated. You just have to have a heart that cares about other people and a curiosity that just keeps going. And that's it. And ironically, that cleverness gets in the way. And I feel like that's what, the whole industry is really, built on is letting go of all of that sophistication. All right, Danny, where are we at? What's the what how can if people want to learn more about what you're doing, or what is it that you would like people to know about an offering you have? Do you have a website? Do you have like what you're up to? Like, how can people connect with you?
I'm still working on all of that. I'm trying to put that together. Right before the COVID crisis, as I like to call it, happened, I was on a good groove going that way, and then this happened, and the college and all the other needs around the house. I have a son that's going to be 20 that has autism. I'm his guardian, so a lot of his work from school, I'm doing at home with him, and getting my son through graduation, that kind of overtook everything. So right now it's in the infancy stage, and I'm still doing a lot of research and still trying to kind of figure out, who I am as a coach. Even though I have an idea, I'm still like 90%, but there's that 10% that's like telling me there's a little bit more, another gear there. And I'm trying to figure out what that is. So I'm really taking my time and kind of baby stepping it. And I'm hoping that by the end of the year, I'll have a definitive plan out there. But that's where I'm at right now. And if people wanted to get a hold of me or ask me anything, they can find me through the college, Calumet College of St. Joseph in Whiting, Indiana.
That's perfect. I mean, it's awesome that you're able to use what you've learned. It's like in a university setting. I mean, you took the wellness program, but I mean, basically you're doing academic life coaching.
Sure.
In a university setting, which is amazing. It's so lucky. Like, so lucky.
It works with my faculty too. I mean, my faculty are, many of these people are police officers who are ready to retire or recently retired, or, it's the other end of the spectrum where they have maybe 10 or 15 years on a job. They're in the middle, and they're doing this as a side job to teach. And the coaching with them, is fascinating, helping them get to where they need to be, and watching them pull themselves, the answers out of themselves is just, it's amazing to see. I mean, and like you said, this is not, it's not like rocket science. It's not, everyone overthinks things, we all tend to overthink things, and it's not that difficult. You just have to be a naturally empathic person, who really cares about people. And if you're not that person, then it's probably not for you. But
Yeah. Many other things to do in this world, but if you like people and you're curious and empathetic, then go for it, right?
I love people. I love all kinds of people. I love talking to people. That was the thing I loved about being a police officer the most, was interacting with the people. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. I'm a people person, so it's natural for me.
Danny, it's such a pleasure to have you on this podcast and get a little bit of your story and see the variety of people who are a part of the coach training EDU community. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for like all of your service and for answering the questions generously, especially the one about the police siren, busting through lights.
No problem. No problem.
Thought about that time to time. And so this will be up on the blog, and thank you, EDU community, for showing up here and for listening on the podcast. I'm your host, John, and today we did our podcast with Danny McGuire. Thanks, everyone.